Welcome to This Week in Habsland. I am Jordan and he is Brian, and we are here to discuss our Montreal Canadiens. You can find us on social media at HabslandPod. Okay, Brian, I was thinking about this during this little mini break that the NHL just had. The NHL is one of the few leagues left, I would say, that completely shut down for a few days around Christmas. They have full blanket off Boxing Day, Christmas Eve. I don't know why I did this backwards. Christmas Eve, Christmas, Boxing Day. In contrast, the NBA historically now has a quintuple header, 5 games back to back to back to back to back. The NFL the last few years has really encroached on that. They now have like a Netflix double header or something, and there's another game, sometimes 3. Similarly, the Premier League, their huge day, not so much this year, but usually is Boxing Day. We know, of course, the World Juniors loves Boxing Day. Even if you go down to college football, like New Year's Day is their big thing. And I get that it's part of the CBA, but is the NHL missing out here by not having a holiday-inspired approach? Or am I, ironically, considering what we talked about last week, on the wrong side of consumerism in pro sports this time around?
So no, I don't think you're on the wrong side. Let me quell that fear right away, because it's the fact that every other major sports league does it means that it's a valid question. At the very least, it's a valid question. I think I'm on the side of the players who probably just want to spend time with their families. So the fact that it is part of the CBA, which, you know, that a lot of what's on the CBA protects the owners, a lot of what's on the CBA protects the players. It's you know, collective bargaining agreement. When you're bargaining, you never get everything your way. But I think this is one that the players definitely wanted to get their way, to be able to actually spend some time with their families. I mean, this isn't a job that they have that they do 9 to 5 and then get to come home. So especially during the holidays, I think that they'll want to do that. Now, in terms of the health of the league, I think you'd probably get some very good viewership of families sitting down and watching these games. I mean, we see how well the World Juniors does every year starting on Boxing Day. I mean, me and my family were watching a couple of games on the 26th while we were celebrating Christmas late. So I think it's very valid a question. I don't know what the right way to do this is, but I for once am going to side on the side of the players.
Yeah.
Let them have their nice Christmas, their nice holidays with their families. Let them get a little bit of a rest. The one, I guess, caveat to this, I was about to say, especially in such a tightened season, well, it wouldn't be so tight if you put 2 games during these 3-4 days. So that is fair, but let them get a little break.
Yeah, like I think in years past, I very much have been on like, why don't you eventize Boxing Day? I get Christmas Day, don't have it. Christmas Day is also way too competitive. But Boxing Day, tie it in nicely with the World Juniors. You know there's like going to be a Canada game at 7 p.m., a USA game at 9 p.m. or 6:30 or 9, whatever. Why don't you put like big marquee NHL games at 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. leading up to the World Juniors? That's been my thinking in the past. For some reason this year, I was like, you know what, it is kind of nice that the NHL says, you know, full 72 hours, like teams aren't even able to travel on Boxing Day. Everybody's completely off, to the point where, and you and I were just looking at the schedule, there was something that happened on the 27th where, so it is like typically NHL teams will travel day before for a road game. But because of this rule, teams had to travel day of on the 27th, which means we got Tampa, Florida, which means we got Edmonton, Calgary, which also happened on the 23rd. We got both New York teams playing each other, both Ontario teams playing each other. So the NHL kind of recognized like they're kind of in a hard spot there. So they're really trying to minimize travel. Yeah, this was the first year where I was like, you know what? It's fine. Is it an opportunity missed? Yeah, probably. But they could also do better, I think, Brian, like we've talked about, on finding other days to eventize. Like doing a better job with Frozen Frenzy, doing a better job with the Winter Classic, doing a proper hockey day in Canada. Like there's other things you can do that doesn't have to be Christmas or Boxing Day. So you know what? It's fine.
Yeah, there are definitely other reasons to say wake the hell up, Gary.
Yeah.
But I do also get it from a perspective of a lot of buildings, like we're in Montreal, so we don't see this, but a lot of buildings are relatively empty at various points throughout the year, depending who that team is playing. You know, I don't want to throw out any names and put any fan bases under the bus, but there's definitely some buildings that need more folks in there. I think during the holidays, that would even be more exacerbated. Like those people that sit down low. Actually, you pointed out that, what is it, the CIBC, RBC section, one of the banking sections there that's constantly empty after periods because they're out having an expensive beverage in their lounge or whatever it is. I don't want to see more of that because all those folks are celebrating with their families, you know, empty buildings. That doesn't look so good. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine.
It's fine. All right. So let's get to the week that was, which unfortunately, this has become a usual disclaimer. While we are recording later than we normally are, it is still not late enough to get in the Sunday night game. So apologies on the Tampa Habs game. I'm sure it was terrific, but we'll talk about that next week. Having said that, Brian, there is really only one game to talk about this week. What a game it was. Bruins Habs remains at my core the number one rivalry. It's definitely cooled off. So there's still some stuff to talk about in there. Brian, if you may, I would like to start with your headline. It is more targeted towards that Bruins Habs game from last Tuesday.
Sure. It's directly related to that. This is what inspired it, and then I'll go a little bit deeper for the overarching theme that I seem to always come back to, which is penalties galore. So Montreal beat down the Bruins 6-2 in a special teams showdown. You got to love that around the holidays, unless you're a Bruins fan. Sorry to my cousin Greg, but you got to love it. As a Habs fan, there's nothing better than that. Beating the Bruins around the holidays, that's the best. And then we also saw, on the kind of topic of penalties, I want to get into like the lack of discipline stuff that, take a drink. Brian's talking about the Habs' lack of discipline again. But other than that, the thing that really beefs up your penalty minutes, 2 great fights before the 10-minute mark had even hit of the first period. Anderson fights Jeannot, and then Xhekaj fights Zadorov. All 4 of these guys can go. I don't think the Habs won these fights, but I also don't think they got beat down too hard, and the fact that we won the game makes it okay. But those were some really good tilts. And then just tons of penalties for both teams on both sides of the puck all night long. And the Montreal Canadiens have much better special teams than the Bruins. At least they did in that game. And so, I don't know, I'll put this to you. Do you think that that's what allowed us to win the game? Because at 5-on-5, it really didn't seem like the Habs had full control over that game.
Great question. Look, first of all, shout out to Josh Anderson, who has just continued to revamp his image. Montreal Canadian fans, not you and I, but a lot of them were sick of him 2 years ago. And what he's done in the past season and a half is really remarkable. And something I hope that, look, he has a year plus left on the deal. Hopefully he can finish it out and become one of those, maybe not quite so beloved, because I don't know if he'll get there, but be one of those guys that St. Louis will be able to point to in years in the future when there's other guys like this, maybe even younger, and it says, look what happened to Josh. We did this with Josh. Josh was struggling as a top 6 guy. He accepted his role and he excelled at it as a bottom 6 guy, penalty killer. He's always been able to fight. I thought he did quite well in his fight, by the way. I thought that was a bit closer, that one, than the Xhekaj fight. Okay, so you were asking like 5-on-5. I thought the Canadiens were fine at 5-on-5, truthfully. I thought they were doing pretty well. Like the Bruins had a lot of the power plays early on, from what my memory tells me, or reminds me of, and then it slowly tilted. Honestly, look, it's a Habs podcast. The goal decision at the end and the non-challenge by Boston at the end of the second period, for me, is kind of what decided the game. Like, I would have challenged that if I was Boston, really. I thought there was, anyways, like, we don't really have to get into it, but like, to me, I was looking at that review and I thought, hey, like, there's like, they choose later on to use their challenge and blow it. And I'm starting to like split hairs on. I think it was after the 3-2 goal is when they challenge and then they go down 4-2, and then the wheels are really coming off and they're taking stupid undisciplined penalties. And it was actually kind of weird as a Habs fan watching the other team do, like, we do the immature, stupid stuff. Now, we had done it earlier in the game, so like it wasn't like it was that long. So I thought that moment towards the end of the second period was kind of the defining moment where, truthfully, the Bruins probably should have gone up. But yeah, the important part is, all in all, like, who cares about the challenges? The Habs got power plays and they took advantage of them, and the Bruins did not.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, that's all she wrote. Like, we can get into the individual moments. I thought Slavkovsky had a great game. Lane Hutson has, you and I have talked about kind of over the course of the year, like Caufield had his normal hot start, and then Slavkovsky has been really dynamite for about a month now. Bubbling under everything is Nick Suzuki, and we can talk about him too, but it's really been the Lane Hutson show for the last 2-3 weeks, and he has just gone supernova. And the game against the Bruins was no different. So that's kind of how I see it. Again, at 5-on-5, I thought the Habs were actually holding their own, but holding your own at 5-on-5 in an NHL game these days doesn't mean anything. So right. It's a coin flip. If you're not dominating 5-on-5, it's a coin flip. So they did all right, and then they got the power plays. They took advantage of them towards the end of the game, and it became a blowout.
Yeah, that it did. I really want to touch on Slavkovsky because I'm glad you're pointing him out. In the offensive zone, he's been amazing. He's been really, really good. He knows where he has to be. That thing of that we were lamenting about last year, if he gets the puck and he's like, what do I do with it? And he loses it. That doesn't seem to happen when there's sustained pressure in the offensive zone. The one thing, if I could be this guy again and be like, well, this thing he could still improve upon, he's very often trying to do offensive zone entries and even some of the neutral zone transitioning, I'd say, he's trying to do them all by himself. I admire the effort. Power to you, buddy. That's great that you're trying. You can also rely on your teammates, dude. You don't have to just run into traffic and lose the puck above the circles. Because like I said, possession-wise, he's a monster in the offensive zone. Sometimes that transitioning, getting into the offensive zone, sometimes he's just trying to do a little too much when Demidov is sitting there or Kapanen's streaking behind or the defensemen are about to enter and he has another option. So all this to say, that's just sort of the next thing to look at if you're Juraj Slafkovsky I don't have to do this all alone. I'm surrounded by talented teammates who can do it. Now, Kapanen is not a play driver by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe he'll grow into that, maybe he won't, but Demidov sure is. So he can absolutely be using Demidov, and the amount of time that they are put on the ice with the Hudson pairing means that you have one of the best defensemen play drivers in the whole NHL standing right behind you, buddy. So use those guys and don't run into traffic. That's all I got to say on Slav. In terms of his point getting, in terms of his playmaking, in terms of his shooting the puck and leading the team in power play goals, hell yes. This is the Juraj Slafkovsky we knew we had when we drafted him. And we were like, quick, put him with Suzuki and Caufield, quick, put him on the first power play unit. And it just took a little bit longer for those things, I guess, to happen. But I am beyond thrilled that they did. And then Caufield, I have to just touch on this. What a beautiful stick handling into the net. It looked like a video game glitch. He just moved quicker than Swayman could even process what was going on. Potted that 5-hole goal. That one really put it away, that 4-2 goal. And the Suzuki batting of the puck out of the net, was that the most casual goal you've ever seen, Jordan? Literally just it looked like a bunt.
Honestly, he looked kind of annoyed, right? He was like, this stupid friggin' bunt. Go in.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It was I was like, oh, wow, aggression from Nick Suzuki. My goodness. That was kind of my watch of it. But it was very much, he was just focus, hit. I just viewed it as kind of almost, I kind of laughed when he did it because he was because what he's doing, I'm making a joke of it. What he was doing is he was waiting for it to get under the bar, right?
Correct.
He could have hit it at any which moment he wanted to, but he was like, wait, go. So I found it comedic because he looked kind of angry doing it. I'm scoring this stupid goal. But it was fun. Look, you again, I still consider Boston our biggest rivals. So cracking 4 on them in the third period feels good on the road, fun. Especially going into a mini break. It felt good. It was also a bit of revenge for when they played a few weeks earlier and they didn't necessarily cave in the Habs, but the Habs didn't do themselves any favors in that game.
No.
So, look, it's on the penalty front, if we can wrap with that to come back to your headline, they are still one of the most undisciplined teams in the league. I will make a note that across the league, there are more penalties being taken. So it's not for everyone at home who's watching, your eyes are not deceiving you. There are more penalties being called on average. The Canadiens, it's something like 4.4 penalties per 60 they're taking right now. Last year, they were 3.9 per 60. Again, give me some leeway on those numbers. But in both years, they've been top 5 in the NHL. They take a crap load of penalties, but even on top of that, there has been a general increase. There's been a rising tide in penalties taken across the board this year. Having said that, good teams, Brian, usually don't take a lot of penalties. And as the Canadiens kind of continue to whack-a-mole their way through this season, this has been one they've not been able to plug and not been able to hit for years now. And it will bite them on some of these games. They were just happened to be on the receiving end where they got 7 power plays and Boston got 5. They still gave up a goal, so that's still bad. 5 power play opportunities and a goal conceded on the penalty kill. They just happened to be the less undisciplined team last week on Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely so. And one of the most, or I should say, one of the least disciplined teams in the entire NHL this year and last year, 5th place once again. 405 penalty minutes so far. Now, some of those are fights, and if you watch the Florida-Tampa game, holy crow, there were a ton of penalty minutes in there. So Tampa basically leapfrogged us by about 100 penalty minutes in one night, something like that. But fifth right now, 405 penalty minutes in 37 games. Obviously, again, we're recording prior to the Sunday night game. That's just south. They're on pace for just south of 900, 898 penalty minutes this year. Jordan, I believe you were the one to give me the over-under of 760 because that's what they had last year.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory. Did I take the over or the under?
You took the under on all three of your over-unders. So you thought less undisciplined.
Shit.
Yeah.
Shit.
Mm.
So look, all right. There's one in your column, buddy. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so let's make our way back into to my headline. I will say I was being a bit I couldn't find my notes from earlier. It was the non-challenge by Marco Sturm, the Bruins head coach, where is it Suzuki who's no, or is it Matheson? One of the Habs players appeared to kind of knock into Jacob Fowler and not necessarily David Pastrnak. Whereas like I think if they had challenged that play, then I feel like they would have had a good chance of getting that one. It was called off by the referees. I think it had a good chance of being overturned. Anyways, doesn't matter. Habs won. So headline,
dude. You say you. Can I just touch on that? Because you say they probably had a good chance. Who the hell knows anymore though? Because the same play will happen in two separate games. One gets called, the other doesn't. So
fair.
Look, I'm happy it went in our favor, but they got to fix that shit. Anyway, on to your headline. Enough on that.
Okay, we have to do this one, sadly. Another one bites the dust, and this is about the Jake Evans injury news that we got right after the holiday break ended. I will say, as of recording, it looks like Alexandre Texier is fine. Whether he's playing in Tampa or not, we don't know yet, but he took full practice, regular jersey. So Texier doesn't seem like he's out for the count, but sadly, Jake Evans is. He's out 4 to 6 weeks with, the Canadiens said lower body. We all saw the knee-on-knee collision on the 20th. So
yeah,
Eric Engels had reported that this was not worst-case scenario. The worst-case scenario was obviously an ACL, a serious ACL injury. So, okay, he'll be back by the beginning of February, let's say. So first of all, major bummer. It sucks that this happens anytime to one of our Habs. Jake Evans has been having a fine year, and I think especially with the arrival of Phil Danault, it kind of weirdly would have taken some pressure off of Evans, who's kind of been one of the few stabilizing forces in the bottom six. And so what this does mean is that Owen Beck is likely going to stick around for a bit longer, at least until Kirby Dach returns. We're not going to do the exercise of who's playing with who, because like we talked about it, I think it was last week, they're never going to have all guys healthy at this point. So it's almost a moot exercise to try to make sure, okay, who's going to play with who. So having said that, thank goodness for the Danault trade. And, it means likely Owen Beck gets a little bit longer with the Habs. So Brian, my question to you is, let's look for silver linings on this. You don't want to see Jake Evans out. How do you think the distribution now goes between Danault and Beck, who are likely the bottom six centers? Yes, of course, with Kapanen as the second line center. How much rope is, or not rope, that's the wrong term. How much responsibility is St. Louis going to give to Beck versus just continuing to pile on Danault? Because part of the Danault trade is to take pressure off of Suzuki. We saw that with the penalty kill time, going way down immediately. Yeah. So how does this play out with the centers? Is Beck going to get a bit more? Is Danault just going to fully absorb the Evans role, and Suzuki's going to be anticipated to retake the role he thought he'd given up? How's it going to play out?
I think it hinges on Beck. The ball's in his court, because Marty can very easily just give a ton of time to Danault.
Yeah.
He's a vet. He's a defensive center who's been one of the, I don't know where you would place him. He's not, I don't think he's top 10, but maybe he's top 20 defensive centers in the NHL. And with that will come some responsibilities. And if the other guys can't cut it, here you go, Danault, do what you do. And I wasn't thrilled about it initially. Now that we know that it's 4 to 6 weeks for Evans, it's looking pretty good, and thank goodness for that. Now, what I will say on Beck is the ball's in his court, and man, do I hope he runs with it. Man, do I hope he runs with that ball, because we need some energetic centers who are also intelligent in our lineup. I think that Nick Suzuki is the prime example of an intelligent centerman, but he's a skilled elite first-line center. All the other centers are not energetic. Danault's not going to be energetic. Kapanen can be at times, but that's really not his game. He's more subtle. Owen Beck, when he's on his game, is energetic, hitting guys, running all over the place, heading to the front of the net, doing all the things well, moving the puck quickly. So that's really his game, and it'll be nice to have a little bit of variety in the centers in that way, to have a guy who's like that. And I also I'll throw it back to you with another question. How much does it hinge on their line mates, on who finds chemistry with who? Because let's say Beck magically, or not magically, just they happen to find chemistry with his line mates, and Danault doesn't. Suddenly Beck's getting all the ice time in the world because of his line mates. Is that a possibility as well?
So I think your first take on St. Louis just being like, oh, cool, new toy, Philip Danault, what am I going to do with you? That's definitely the most likely scenario here. But what's also true, and this comes back around to Beck, is with some prospects like Ivan Demidov and Lane Hudson, the season starts, they're there, they got the job, they're awesome. Kind of the same with Slafkovsky, but not really. He's almost an anomaly. The team sucked so much, it didn't matter. What happens, though, with most prospects, I actually find, it happened with Jakub Dobish, it happened with Jaden Struble. It's this little, and it's happening with Beck. It's this little, drip, drip, drip. How much are we seeing out of you? How much do you prove? And we don't know how long this opportunity is going to be. And I do agree, like the line mates you're put with, and thus far it has mostly been Brendan Gallagher and Joe Veleno with Owen Beck. I don't know how much that will change, really. But this is another opportunity for Owen Beck to, at least by the time that everyone is healthy, if everyone ever gets healthy, Beck can really make a call for the 12th to 13th forward spot, and he will have proven it with NHL games. I think, I know I've realized year over year, from the short bursts he got last year, the 10 to 12 games he got last year versus the 10 or so he's gone so far this year, there's a jump. You've seen a guy get a little bit better, and the most important part is that he's more recognizable when he's out there because he's making more plays. Owen Beck was always viewed to be as a guy who was like high floor, low ceiling, and the last year the high floor was not really making many mistakes, but you don't necessarily see him out there. This year, you're seeing him out there a little bit more, making just a few more plays, a couple more back checks, a couple more removing, he's not someone who's going to remove man from puck on the boards by himself, but it'll help in, a 2v1 situation. And he's actually scored quite a lot of goals. The NHL has just refused to count 2 of them. So,
right.
So the point is, like, this is another opportunity for Owen Beck. In terms of the line mates he's going to get, he's not going to get the best line mates. They're going to give preference, of course, there. And it'll depend on Texier, but certainly I'd presume it's Henderson, Texier for Danault. And then again, with Beck, it's just, okay, you're going to get another 4 games, 6 games, 8 games until Doc is available. And who knows at that point if, like, the real interesting part will be if and when Doc comes back, let's say in the next 10 days to 14 days, is it Veleno coming out of the lineup and not necessarily Beck? That's kind of where the weave comes in. Now, you can argue 2 lefties would be more important at that stage, but whatever. Like, so I think Danault's going to get the not the preferential treatment, but like the preferred and the more like the primary roles here of penalty kill 1, taking the Evans spot there, getting the third. He's a full Evans replacement at this point, which was not necessarily the intent. And that Beck will stay in that 4C role, kind of keeping it warm, but there's still an opportunity for him to craft a new spot out of that, if that makes sense.
Very much so. I think that makes a lot of sense. And the other responsibility that they will both have to take over is face-offs, because you look at the face-off numbers for the Montreal Canadiens, Jake Evans 54.1%. Nobody else is above 50 who takes consistent face-offs, with the exception of Joe Veleno is actually 50.7. So he's about 50%, a touch over, 3 more wins than losses. But Jake Evans, 236 to 200. Those are very good numbers. You love to see that. And you look at Owen Beck, what a start. We all knew he was a face-off specialist, almost 62%, Jordan. Now, there's not a lot of face-offs there. He's had 51 of them, but winning 34 of those is pretty strong. And then Philip Danault, he's won 1/3 of his face-offs, 5 out of 15, but that'll come. Like, we know Danault's a good face-off taker.
Right.
He'll figure that stuff out for sure. But I think that's a crucial part of it as well. And the fact that Philip Danault is a lefty, that helps him in terms of, or that helps the team, I should say, in terms of the proportion of face-offs that he's taking. You compare that with like Nick Suzuki, just under 49%, still fairly good, and then Kapanen like 48.5. So big face-off guy, Owen Beck, that's going to be crucially important. I want to jump back. Fascinating conversation of like who comes out at that point. Is it Beck? Is it Veleno? You alluded to something last week that I've still been mulling over because I can't believe it's coming to an end, whether it's this year or next year. But Brendan Gallagher has lost significant steps. And if it was based on merit, that is actually the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I hate saying that. It sucks, but like that's where we're at.
St. Louis clearly values Veleno's ability to take draws and the fact that he's a lefty. How much that is now reduced now that you have a better version of that remains to be seen. It's the same thing we said with Savard last year, man. Like, this is an alternate captain and not a guy I think you can. Not that Savard was an alternate captain, but like, you know what I mean? Like a vet on the team who has a lot of standing with the organization. It is an incredibly tricky thing to scratch a player like that. It's not going to be Gallagher. I would be very now.
No, it won't.
Again, now if his effort, this is a stupid thing I'm about to say. If his effort ever wavered, then the door opens. But we know it won't.
It won't. It never will.
So
no,
it's something to keep in mind, and it's something that we hoped wouldn't happen this year or next. That he'd be able, like the best case scenario for all of this, Brendan Gallagher, knock on wood, like stays healthy all of this season, all of next season. It gets him to exactly 1,000 hockey games as a Montreal Canadien, and then we could evaluate the options going forward with like a 1-year contract or whatever. Perfect scenarios don't always come into play. So like, yes, Gallagher based on merit, he is in that group. He should be with Veleno and Beck in that discussion of who's coming out. In reality, he's probably not there as of right now, the end of December 2025. It could change though. It could change by February. It could change by April. We're just not there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And just last thing on Gallagher, the Olympic break will do him some good. All those older dudes, that's going to do you guys a bunch of good. Rest up, come back good after that. But we've got a few weeks till then. So, you know, try, I guess, pedal to the metal until then. Last thing on Owen Beck, he's a +4 right now. I know that plus minus is not that big a deal, but like +4 after 9 games, that's a very positive thing, especially when you look at the rest of the bottom 6. Not many guys are positive in there. I'm looking now. I'm trying to find one. Sammy Blais, +2 after 2 games. There's one.
There he
awesome.
is.
Well done. By the way, what a shot from behind the net. Sammy Blais, are you kidding me? No angle?
That's it.
That's going in.
Just keep pulling the Caufield
what do you
and you'll
think
play.
Of,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you learned that from Caufield. Well said. What do you think of Beck in terms of within the context, and you, I guess we'll extend this to Danault. Neither one of these guys are prime candidates for Martin St. Louis' philosophy of you don't have to defend if the opponent can't gain your zone, right? Like that's the philosophy they have. If the opponent doesn't get into your zone, if you keep the puck in the offensive zone, they're not scoring because they're not in your zone. It makes sense. But the crucial thing here, you still have to be able to defend when the opposing team does get in. When they eventually get into your zone, you have to be able to defend. So I think that's when these two guys come in. When the opposition comes into your zone and your whole team looks like headless chickens, chances are Owen Beck is not on the ice. Chances are Phil Danault is not on the ice. So I think that's a really clear thing that they're also trying to do. Management down now is acquire these players that don't look like headless chickens in the defensive zone. Like I'm thinking of the play. It didn't end up being a goal, but that play where Geekie beat Fowler super clean from the slot, but hit the post. He was able to do that because he received the puck in enough space right in the slot to take a good shot. Like, clean up the effing slot, guys. I don't know how many years we've been saying this, and maybe this is too big a tangent to enter right now, but to bring it back to Beck and Danault, that's something they do very well.
We're going to see a very clean distribution of offensive zone draws. Sorry, I should say defensive zone draws versus all other types of zone draws with the Danault and Beck lines and eventually Danault Evans lines versus Suzuki and the second line. All you need, really, from your top 2 lines is good back checking, if that's the case. And one gentleman who's been doing that better and better is Mr. Oliver Kapanen, who just every week, another play or two here or there on the back check, a lot of active stick movement. Just so I wanted you started talking about like zone coverages, especially like the second line. If you have Ivan Demidov and Juraj Slafkovsky, at least right now, you're going to be in the offensive zone quite a bit. They're going to turn the puck over, though, as well, because that's what they do, because they're still young players. Kapanen's been really impressive, but I think we're going to see that even more. It'd be something interesting to track, specifically Suzuki, now that Danault is there, how much Suzuki's non-defensive zone starts increase. I'm going to presume they're already like in the 65-70% range. And what I think we're also going to start seeing is we're going to get the old Dvorak again, where it'll be the Suzuki line to start a defensive zone draw, but swap Danault for Caufield, and Danault takes the draw if it's on the left side, go win the draw, get off the ice 13, comes back on. I think St. Louis is thrilled that he can do this again. And that's what I think we're going to see as well.
That's a very fair point. I think we're definitely going to see that. You said it's like or not the Dano thing. It's like the Dvorak thing. It is also like the Dano thing because they were doing that when he was a Hab too.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so let's end our current day headlines and do a segment that you and I, Brian, enjoy quite a bit. It is our 2026 predictive headlines. So looking into our crystal ball, we do headlines every week. Well, now we're going to call our shot months and months out. So I have 4 here, Brian. I believe you have at least 3 prepared, and we can do these in kind of rapid fire succession. You know, we each have 1 headline per week, but for this, I got 4 ready. So I'll just get us going off the bat. My first headline, and I know you don't tend to do this, but I've dated mine. So this is from Tuesday, April 14th, 2026, which is the last day of the Habs, game 82 for the Habs, which I believe is a Flyers game. Caufield scores 2 in finale as pursuit for 40 falls short. I think he's getting to 39. And part of this is just, back-to-back years, we've seen Cole get off to rocking, just blistering hot starts. Last year was 17 goals in the first 27. This year was 17 in this first 30. And then it tapers off, and he comes back and he has his heaters and this and that, and he finished with 37 last year. We're seeing a very similar goal trajectory playing out in terms of how, really hot to start, cools off, comes back. It's also, unfortunately, the last 82 game season, and I'm going to be really bummed if he doesn't get the 40 and he gets 40 next year, and everyone's just going to say he only got the 40 because of the extra 2 games.
Oh, right.
So that's going to suck if he gets 41 next year, and it's because of games 83 and 84. But whatever, let's not look that far. Let's not look into 27. Looking at 26, just maybe this is also reverse jinxing what I'm trying to do right now and get him up higher. But that's just it. 39 for Cole. I think he gets close. Like it's a 5-2 win against the Flyers, and he's on the ice hoping to get an empty netter for the hat trick to get the 40, and it just doesn't happen.
Look, that's entirely possible. He's coming off. He just ended it against Boston, thankfully, with that quick little deke I talked about earlier, a 6-game goal drought. That's the longest this season. He's had a 4, and he's had a couple 3s, but actually just 1 3 other than that, then a bunch of 2s. Like, very good pace up until game 31 through 36 has a little bit of a drought. What I'm hoping is that was the one drought of the season. Then he goes back to like a goal this game, nothing the next game, 2 goals the following game, 1, 0, 1s, because he's still on pace to get about 40, right? He's, I think, a goal shy of being at 50% right now. Yeah, 18 and 37. So he's on pace for about 40 goals right now. So, man, this is going to be tight. This is going to be a tight race. We will see. Wishing Caufield all the best. I love you started with a goals-related one, so I'm going to jump into a points-related one. I have one that, I love the points-related ones when it's over-unders, when it's hot takes, when it's any little bit that we're doing. I love points-related ones. And I couldn't pick between 3 guys. And then I realized, why choose it all? Here's my headline. Slafkovsky, Demidov, Suzuki all hit point milestones on the same goal. The hard part about this is I'm trying to figure out what the date will be. And maybe I can run it by you. I have December 1st. And obviously we don't know next season's schedule. I just presume there will be a game like December 1st, December 3rd, something like that. Beginning of December. So here's the math. Permit me for 30 seconds to get into the math here. So Nick Suzuki on 417 points right now would need 83 to get to 500. So in a little less than a year, I think that's feasible. Demigod, Ivan Demidov, our favorite rook, he needs 68. He's on 32 to get to 100. And Slafkovsky is at 136. He needs 64 to get to 200. Now, the part that would make this a 10 out of 10 in terms of a hot take is those are all very good paces for those 3 guys. They should hit them if they're healthy, but that's good hockey they're playing in order to hit those. And also on the same night and the same point. I'm saying it's going to be a power play goal for Slafkovsky, first assist Demidov, second assist Suzuki. If I'm right on this, I just retire because I'll never do better than that.
This is great. I love this so much. I was so confused when you started off. I thought you were talking about career high in terms of point totals for a season when you started. And like Demidov's a rookie, you're cheating.
Oh, hell no. He's hitting 200. He's breaking Gretzky's single season record at one point.
And then when you broke it down to December, I'm like, oh, we're going for big round numbers. And I love it. I think it's great. you're right. Those numbers are all achievable. And I think it's realistic to expect they all happen in 2026. And I like your icing on the top that it all happens at the same time. Sure, why not? The interesting thing is that
same point.
The point pace between Slav and Demidov is roughly the same, which I think is something fascinating to monitor going forward right now, because Slav is hitting a different level. The points are finally catching up. It's still happening. He's on pace for like 24 goals and 31 assists. I don't know if it might be like 20 goals and 41 assists by the end of it. Like the assist numbers are going to keep flying up and up. Like what did he start, like 6-0? Like it was something weird like that.
Yeah.
He had like a pitcher stat, and it slowly balanced out. I think it will continue. It just something I know we have you gave me an over under about their point total for the year. I also forget what the number was. I know I bumped the over on it, so I'm rooting for that.
I think it was 115 between the two of them, and if I'm remembering correct.
That's pretty bang on for the first half of the season, and considering Slav's 5-on-5 puck luck, I feel pretty decent about it. Of course, I need health, but just something fun to monitor. Hey, we got 2 star wingers who are 21 and 20, and we're just getting to see the very beginnings of their careers. It's awesome. I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Holy crap.
I have another one involving Ivan Demidov. So headline number 2 for me of the year. This is Tuesday, June 9th, 2026. Demidov, Calder runner-up, while two other Habs finish in the top 10. So listen, it's Matthew Shaver seems to have this one locked down. I think there's a bit of a narrative. Look, Habs podcast bias again. I think there's a bit of a narrative. This is also someone that has Matthew Shaver on his fantasy team, so I have a vested stake in this. It does feel like there was a bit of a narrative that formed by like the second week of November of like, Shaver's won it. He's done it. And it's like, calm down. We have 65 games to go. Having said that, Shaver has definitely been the best rookie. And
oh yeah, unquestionably.
First of all, if you look at this rookie class, it is dynamite, because you have Demidov and Schaefer, who we were presuming it's going to be, 2-1, Schaefer 1, Demidov 2, likely, we'll see. Beckett Seneca has been an absolute monster. I mean, all the Ducks have been so far. Ryan Leonard's having a fine season, but it's really the goalies. When you look at Wallstad in Minnesota, and even Yaroslav Askarov, who's finally a rookie. Also, so I think there's a good 5 or 6. Like we thought last year was going to be the killer year with Lane. It didn't totally end up being that. Like you had Celebrini there, obviously, and Hudson kind of going back and forth, and Hudson got helped out by Celebrini's injury. This year, if everyone stays healthy, it's dynamite. I do think Demidov will finish second, and I said 2 other Habs are going to get votes. What I didn't say is which 2 Habs, because obviously one has to be Oliver Kapanen. This guy pots 22 goals, 25 goals. He should get some freaking Calder votes. But the other one is number 32 there, Mr. Fowler. I don't know, man. He might siphon some votes off of Jakub Dobiš, because obviously there's 2 rookie goalies.
Right.
There at this point, Fowler's just doing whatever he wants out there, and I'm recognizing we're saying this prior to a game where he might get lit up for 13 goals. Or he might shut out Tampa. Who knows? But so I'm just leaving the door open for that. I did take a step back and didn't say one or the other. But that's my thing. A lot of good rookies on a team that's probably going to make the playoffs, but Schaefer's still better.
Yes. That's awesome. I think you said everything about Demidov and Schaefer. Yes, Schaefer's been playing amazing. I do want to touch on the goalies just very quickly, because I was a little bit interested by something that Martin St. Louis said about Sam Montembeault returning from the Rocket, coming from back to the Canadiens. Here's the quote: "We're going to see how things have progressed with him. Will it be part of his journey this season to rebuild himself? We don't know. We'll see, but that's the intention." So if that's the intention, he's going to get a bunch of games. So will Fowler even get into enough games to push for a top 10 Calder placement? I'm not sure. Dobiš has already played enough. He's played 20. He's played more than Monty has. 19 starts, 20 games in total. Fowler's only played 5. So we'll see. Because I think absolutely the intent from Marty is get Monty's game back, keep Dobiš as hot as he possibly can, and then return Fowler to where he belongs, which is Laval. I'm not saying where he belongs because he's not good enough yet for the NHL. He very clearly is. Goaltenders need some simmering. You don't want what happened to Primo to happen to him. Absolutely different players, different pedigree, different round they were drafted in, different stakes. But people were calling Primo the next Carey Price at one point. Absolute silliness, but you don't want Fowler to burn out. and get shell-shocked. So I think that's a very interesting thing, how they're going to tackle Monty. I think he will get some starts, try and get his game back, but I don't know how that's going to progress. I'm very interested to see in that.
So this is the story of January, is what happens with the goalies. I sent you a text on Wednesday morning after I watched the Bruins game. Actually, I watched both games back to back. The Sunday night game, which we didn't really talk about, but we don't really have to, against the Pens, where the Habs are pretty good. They probably should win in overtime, but they don't, and whatever. And then the shellacking against Boston. And I texted you something along the lines of, it's amazing what competent goaltending does to a team. And that's what they've been getting between Dobish and Fowler. We talked about this ad nauseum last week. If someone didn't listen to us talk about the goalie situation, I don't think much has changed in the last week. I mean, again, there's only been 2 other games. But essentially, I think we're on the right track, and Marty's comments seem to agree with what we're saying of they're going to give Monty a shot. But I don't think it's you're good through the Olympics. Don't worry about it. We're going to give you tons and tons of rope here. I think he's going to get 3 or 4 games. And the interesting thing that they'll have to figure out is, are they going to send Fowler down at all, or are they going to keep 3 goalies?
Right.
Because Jacob Fowler has been really damn good. I made the joke about beating a non-Pennsylvania-based team. He did it. He beat Boston. So you're in my good books. And Dobish has continued to just be steady. He has steadied his own ship. That save percentage is going to get to 900. I'm not worried. So this is the story to watch for January of what's going to happen with the goalies. And I'm sure we're going to be able to talk tons and tons about it. So with that, Brian, let's head over to your second 2026 headline.
My second headline is related to one that I did last year. What a dummy. I picked the USA to win the 4 Nations and then proceeded to watch Canada do it, and then felt like a jabroni, like calling the opposition team, and then your team wins. So A, I was wrong, and B, I voted against my team. What an ass. What an idiot. I am not doing that this year. Let's do it, Jordan. The Olympics. February 22nd, 2026. Team Canada beats Team USA for the Olympic gold medal on a goal by Oh, shoot. I spilled coffee on it. It's M-A... I don't know what comes next. Oh, shoot. No. Is it Makar? Is it McKinnon? No. It is Macklin Celebrini. Man, this kid is good.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Oh.
Listen, it would be beyond shocking if he's not on the team again. In the next couple of days, this will all be announced, and we'll have a proper Olympics breakdown. So you're flipping your pick. You're saying, I thought about an Olympics one, but I'm like, no, I know Brian's going to redeem himself from last year.
Damn straight.
So celebrating with the winner. We'll see. Like, I need to see this Team USA roster, if that's okay. The fact that they're still thinking about Jason Robertson is actually mind-blowing. Like, let's really think hard about one of the best, if not like in terms of in-form goal scorers who are American right now, and really think hard if he should make the team. I need to see that roster. I need to see if Vincent Trocheck's on that team, and I'll reserve a bit of judgment there. And it does seem like Canada, like there's more reports about Schaefer very much being in play, which I think we're all hoping for. How much he actually plays will vary, but. And again, I personally don't love the tournament layout. I would rather a bigger group stage and a shorter knockout when there's only 3 group stage matches and then we're immediately going to knockouts. It's a bit fluffy to me, but whatever. I like it. Obviously, I like it. Macklin Celebrini, if we're really going from 2010 Sid golden goal to McDavid's last year, and then we're just immediately hitting fast forward. Now, first of all, Nate McKinnon's going to rip people's heads off at the Olympics, so it's likely going to be him. But
sure.
If it's Mac, then it's just freaking amazing. It being like, yep, here's another guy for the next 20 years. Too bad, losers. You're stuck with him. It's going to be great.
Yeah, 100%. Schaefer coming in. Macklin Celebrini most definitely coming in. I think we're still waiting on is Bedard in there? Is he not? We'll see. But one of these young kids is going to do something special, and that is beyond exciting for Team Canada moving forward. Let's do your next one, Jordan.
Yeah, so what I do think is definitely going to happen on that is one of the young guys, like 23 and under guys, is going to do something big at some point. It might be a quarterfinal game against Sweden. Like you're saying gold medal game, we're going for the throat here, but like there might be a real moment where it's like, yeah, there's a Celebrini goal to break a tie in a third period in a semifinal against Finland. I think that type of stuff is fully on the table. Anyways, we'll have our Olympic talk in a few weeks. We'll get into that. Third headline. I'm trying to go chronologically here. So now I'm into the summer. July 10th, 2026, Kirby Dach and Montreal Canadiens agreed to 1-year deal. So here's the thing with Kirby. 4-year deal. His last year is an RFA year, so they're pretty protected. Although the fact that how like injured this guy has been, I can't imagine there's an RFA market for him. Nor is there much he doesn't have that much leverage other than it's his last RFA year. And I do wonder if it's a prove me deal, which is risky for the Canadiens with where they are in their development. Having said that, we haven't mentioned his name yet, even though he just scored a game-winning goal. Michael Hage has been looking pretty darn good over there in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
And that could change some of the calculus here. There's a risk here for the Canadiens, but also like Kirby Dach is just, we're still rooting for him. And maybe I'm wrong 3 months from now. But I think the right call right now is a 1-year deal. And it might be a bit tepid and he might want a bit more. You know, the Canadiens might actually want to squeeze a second year, but at a lower AAV and this and that. But second line center has been an odyssey for the longest time. I mean, it used to be first line center, so at least we've upgraded. I think there's a happy middle ground here. I do think Dach wants to be in Montreal, and it might just be a 1 year. I like it here, but I want to find a better deal situation, and that will walk him into UFA, but it might be the right call. So Dach and the Habs get a 1-year contract in July.
Very nice. I think a 1 year is all that should be hoped for.
Yeah.
When you've look, I like Dach's game when he's healthy. I do. I've said it before. He's a really good play driver when he's healthy, and when he's on his game, he's a second line center for days. And at worst, a top 6 winger or a third line center. Those guys are valuable, but he can't stay healthy, and that's a problem. I'm gonna jump to my next one, which is basically the same story. A guy who can't stay healthy. And Jordan, I'm going to do something a little different here. I have 2 headlines for this guy, and I want you to pick the more likely candidate.
Okay.
We're talking about Caden Gooley. The first headline is Caden Gooley plays 75-plus games next season. Oh, geez, I just realized that puts us in 2027. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The topic is still important. Let's still have the discussion. 75-plus games next season, or Caden Gooley traded. Now, yeah. I'll give you some background. Traded? What are you talking about? Caden Gooley traded. How many left-handed defensemen, quality left-handed defensemen, do the Montreal Canadiens have? Too many if Caden Gooley's in the lineup.
Yeah, because it's Hudson and Matheson.
You can't have too many.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's Hudson. I'll take the baton here. Yeah, it's Hudson, Matheson. Please. Obviously, they got the contracts, half a decade of that. Adam Engstrom has shown himself worthy, certainly. And I think very much like I said with Beck earlier, and I mentioned this about Engstrom in the last couple of weeks, he is slowly taking that spot away from other guys. Those guys being Struble and Jackeye. Jackie's been all right, actually, the last 4 or 5 games, I will say. Since amazing what happens when you put the guy's feet to the fire and start scratching them for reals. When they start saying, hey, there's a true rookie. Like getting swapped out with Struble's one thing. Getting swapped out for Adam Engstrom is a different thing.
Yeah.
Not like to say anything bad about Engstrom, just Jaden Struble's played 150 games in the NHL. Adam Engstrom is a true rookie. So, anyways, back to the point at hand, yeah, there's lefties. And what you're trading him for obviously matters a lot. If that's the discussion to have, it would suck. And this team with Caden Gooley as I guess the debate would still be open, right? Like Lane Hudson, we have said he's gone Super Saiyan the past couple of weeks. Well, what's also happened in the past couple of weeks, man? Like he's been spending more time on the left.
Yeah, of course.
So even with a healthy Gooley, what does that mean? Is Gooley a $5.5 million player playing on the left side? Third pairing, 18 minutes a night? There starts to become diminishing returns as well at that point. Now, it could also be him and Matheson are combined, you will be one good hockey player for the next 5 years. One will slow down and one will get hurt, but let's hope they're at different times. Maybe that's just top 4 insurance, so you have Dobson and Hudson that you don't have to worry about. If you're asking me what's more likely, it's traded.
Okay.
Because they need a top 6.
Wow.
They need a second line center, and Caden Gooley, now I don't know how much value he has, but I still think he has quite some. Because he is a first-round pick.
Yes.
He has proven he's really good. He is cost-controlled for another 5 year. There's still a lot of value. We're going to do our Habs player value rankings in the next couple, I think in 2 or 3 weeks from now. Caden Gooley's still firmly in the top 10. Now, he slid down. He's been number 4, number 5 over the past couple years. He'll slide down. Guys have passed him. But don't get it twisted. He is still an incredibly important part of this franchise. It just might be for a different reason now. So I think it's more likely, the more likely headline is that he is traded probably in the offseason would be my guess.
Yeah. And we've gone through this entire discussion of all the defensemen without talking about David Reinbacher. There's another guy. Mm-hmm. So I am starting to think that this is the more likely outcome as well. Sort of why I presented it to you like this, because I like Caden Gooley a lot. When he's healthy, he's a tremendous defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens, and he was only getting meaner and better at defending the front of the net, and all these things were improving. So it's a shame to have this discussion without at least throwing a little bit of a bone his way and saying, look, if you're healthy, dude, 75-plus games, you are a hell of a top 4 defenseman, and we'd love to have you. So let's close on that. We know what's more likely, but let's hope for the best for Caden Gooley. I'm going to omit my fourth one, so let's end on your fourth one, Jordan.
Yeah. Just one last thing on the Gooley stuff. I know it wouldn't make sense because of the positional stuff. Josh Norris for Caden Gooley. Who says no? Buffalo has lefties. That's the one thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the funniest way to put this, but
everyone just gets hurt while shaking hands.
Yeah, that's the bit. I'm trying to think of, like, do they get do they both have to be on stretchers when they push them across wherever they're being traded in person? They have that's a mean joke, but yeah, neither one of them can stay in their lineups.
Fair. Okay, it was just a sporadic thought of like that's anyways.
You know what? Like, both teams might be happy with that. They might be.
I'm sure that's what Buffalo was saying when they did the same, but with Dylan Cousins last year. Oops.
What a shame for Buffalo, and what a revelation for Ottawa.
Okay, last one. Let's turn the tide. It's still something frustrating, I'll be honest, but whatever. Last one for me. So Tuesday, October 14th, 2026, the NHL the NHL Board of Governors discusses revamped playoff format. Board of Governors meets 2-3 times a year. They always meet in October. This is the one that they're going to meet at. And in typical NHL fashion, they're going to start talking about something 2 years after they should have actually implemented the change. So this isn't even the change coming, which, by the way, the change I'm going to be presenting here is not the radical one I would prefer. It is going back to the 1-8 format.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen in April is there's a decently good chance the second and third best teams in the entire league will play each other in the first round, because once again, the Central Division is a flipping bloodbath. And it looks like Colorado will avoid it, and it'll be Dallas, Minnesota. Now, if Minnesota can keep this tandem going, now they got Quinn Hughes, and they are actually a rocket, and it doesn't sound like Bill Guerin's done. They're going for it. Dallas is already a machine. Colorado is extraterrestrial. All three of those teams are better than everyone in the Eastern Conference. I'm very confident in saying that right now. You can make arguments that there might be one better, maybe two, depending how Edmonton's feeling, but Edmonton's never good enough for 82 games to surpass them. But there's a decent chance that the top 3 teams, when we look at the full league standings, are going to be in the Central. And first of all, only one of those teams will be making it to the conference final. And one of those teams will also be bounced in the first round. I think this will be the tipping point, finally, for everyone to say, look, it was a good idea to implement the divisional playoffs 12 years ago. We had a good time, had a good laugh. It's over. But I think this season has to happen first. Again, we all saw this happening 2 years ago. Edmonton and LA are going to play each other for the 19th straight season, I'm pretty sure. If LA makes the playoffs, which they're probably not going to make it, but whatever. You know what I mean? How many times does Toronto have to play Tampa? How many times does Edmonton have to play LA? How many times do these central teams who are like Dallas, Colorado, it's so frustrating this has not been a conference final in any of the past 2 or 3 seasons. That it's also either in the first or the second round. Last year was in the first round. It was the Rantanen hat trick. And then 2 years ago it was in the second round. But the NHL's so slow to adapt. I think this will be the one where they're like, what should we do? And they're only going to probably implement the change in 27 or in 28. But I think this season is going to be the one, not in 27, actually in 28 or in 29. Point is, I think this will be the season that fully breaks the divisional playoff bubble, because it's going to be a crime for one of Minnesota, Dallas, or Colorado to not make it to the second round. And truthfully, it's going to be a crime that it's not a conference final, that second round matchup. No offense, actually full offense to everybody in the Pacific. You're not as good. Or the Metro or the Atlantic.
You're not. No one is even close to as good as Minnesota, the third best of those. And yes, you're right, they may jump up. Just looking at the standings right now, it's hilarious. Those 3 teams are at the top: Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, then Chasm, and then like Carolina, everybody else, who cares? And then when you look at the other 5 teams in the Central, because I was just curious, like, well, is anybody else even close? The next 5 teams in the Central are bottom 9 in the league. Utah Mammoth has 39 points, and then Chicago has 34. Those are the top and bottom of that division. Honestly, this whole season is kind of fascinating. Jordan, off the top of your head, how many Eastern Conference teams are below NHL 500?
3?
0.
Oh, wow.
How do you have
Gary.
entire conference, half the league? Yeah, Gary's he's so happy right now. He's so beyond happy. Is that a puck in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? He's happy beyond belief. So like it's kind of astounding. In the Atlantic, it's Toronto who's at the bottom, 17, 15, and 5, so 527. And then Columbus is at NHL 500. Worst team in the East is NHL 500. That's kind of astounding. And then you go to the West, and it's a more even distribution until you get to those top 3 monsters. So yes, it's an absolute travesty that those 3 teams are not all getting to the last 4. And look, upsets are great, and sometimes those teams lose to an 8th seed. We've all seen those happen. But what sucks is when it isn't an upset. It's just, the second best team lost to the third best team. That is garbage. So absolutely, I love that. Look, we've discussed, and maybe we could save this, but we've discussed other playoff formats. 1 and 8 is the best possible option that they actually even consider. I love the pick an opponent format. I also love the screw the conferences. It's 1 to 16. But look, it's a pipe dream, realistically, at this point. Your headline was perfect. You said they discuss it. Which means some guy brings it up and Gary goes, nah, we're not doing that. Okay, how can we put more ads on television?
Yeah, how can we add a 4th commercial break into the periods? Yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, I love 1 to 16. Do a 2-3-2 in the best of 7 for the first 2 rounds, then go back to 2-1-1-1. It's not rocket science. Baseball does 2-3-2. It's fine. They survive. But alas, can we at least get 1 versus 8 back on the board? Which, truthfully, by the way, 1 versus 8 never really existed, because in the 1 versus 8, the division winners had to finish 1-2-3. And there was always hilarious matchups, because usually the Southeast Division back in the day sucked a big old ball, and that team that finished 3rd was barely a playoff team. The amount of Carolina and Washington's finishing 3rd that had the same amount of points as like the Habs or the Bruins or the Sens, who would be in 7th and 8th, was always amazing. So the lucky team who would finish 6th would actually have a better record. So a true 1-8 is what we would be asking for. Au minimum 116. That's the pipe dream. It'll never happen. Anyways, listen, these are our predictions. I think we went a little bit, we didn't go obvious, right? We didn't talk about Habs playoffs. We didn't talk about big Habs trades.
No.
We didn't mention 87, although I guess I just did. We went a little bit, kind of below the surface on Caufield, on Doc, on the stupidity of the NHL competition committee, on Caden Gooley. They got a little dark there, I'll be honest, but we were being honest. And yeah, look, we'll see what happens. It's going to be a fun 2026 for everyone that listened to us this year. I believe, first of all, there's a Spotify for creators Wrapped, which I find this whole Wrapped nonsense is getting a little out of hand. Like LinkedIn has a Wrapped thing, which is just absolutely stupid. But anyway, Spotify for creators, there's a Wrapped thing there. And we were something like in the top 10 of like 125 or 150 people's most listened to podcasts this year. So it's amazing for Brian and I who have been doing this now 3.5 years that people actually listen to us on a weekly basis. Now, you might be yelling at us. Now, we can't hear you, which is probably good for our self-esteem. But regardless, thank you for listening to us over this year, over previous years. If this is the first year you found us, you're stuck. You're never going back. But, we truly appreciate it. We like the feedback. We're going to try to incorporate more like listener mailbag stuff going forward. That was a fun segment. Brian and I want to do it together because I'm sure Brian has some different ideas to bring forward. So we're going to be looking to become a bit more interactive into 2026 and involve the listener a bit more. But I just wanted to say, and I know, Brian, you have the same thoughts of thank you everyone for listening. We hope you've had a good holiday break. I hope you've had some time off school or work and that, you usher in the new year in the best way possible, which is by going to bed by 10 p.m. on New Year's Eve, because why do you have to stay up until midnight? It's idiotic. So that's me. Brian, anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to second everything. Thank you all so much for listening to us. We really appreciate it. A couple of friends who've been talking Habs for as long as we've known each other. We put a couple of mics in front of us, and I can't believe people tune in, and we're very, very appreciative of that. On the mailbag topic, we hadn't set it in stone, Jordan, but we wanted to do one early in the year. What do you think of doing one next week?
Next week or the one after? How about that? We can leave it a little open.
Next week or the one after? Great.
One of the next two episodes, yeah.
One of the next two episodes will be a mailbag. Maybe that'll depend on how much feedback we actually get by next week. So those of you who are interested in getting a question in, a comment, whatever you want, send us a message on one of the platforms. We will see it, and we'll be psyched to answer it. The last one that you did alone when I was indisposed, you did a great job, Jordan, and a lot of those questions were fascinating, not things that you and I think, like we throw, 10, 15 questions to each other per episode, something like that. So you'd think we'd have exhausted everything, but you guys out there came to us with a bunch of questions like, oh shit, man. Like I'm listening to you answer them like, oh man, I would love to answer this question. So please get your questions in. I know they'll be great. And again, thank you so much. All the best for 2026. Go Habs go in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of where people can find us, on Blue Sky at Habsland Pod. So send us questions through there. In the Spotify comments, leave them there. We read them. If you send us the questions through there, or the video for those who listen through YouTube, leave comments in those. We'll find them. I promise we'll look for them. Let them come in over the next couple weeks, and we'll cobble some together ourselves and scour the interwebs and find some stuff. But for now, we'll wrap the episode for this week and for 2025. You can find us, like I just said, on social media at Habsland Pod. And until next year, go Habs.